ideological subversion, or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crushes his, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization.
Hello everyone, welcome back. First article I have up is Shock Discovery, 248 human embryos found trashed in Russian forests. It says here, a fishing trip in Russia, Urals ended with cries of horrors. It says here, as a man found canisters filled with human embryos, some already shaped to babies' bodies. It goes on and it says that a lid on a bright blue container, apparently unblocked as a canister, hit the ground and many embryos spilled out. And it goes on and it actually says that the label is attached to the tiny hands and legs, listed family names of assumed mothers, and some digit codes which may refer to the pregnancy period, date of abortion, or the hospital where the body originated from. The next up, I don't know if you remember this article, and this was going to tie in with the earlier video about the elites and that. Thai police arrest man after baby's body found roasted, wrapped in gold leaf. So yeah, they arrested a British man Friday after discovering 6 human babies which had been roasted and wrapped in gold leaf in preparation for a type of black magic ritual. And gold leaf, so it's like a nice little shindig, formal get-together. So this is from May 18th. And in Russia, actually, it's a new Russian threat, abortion. It says here, the ongoing financial crisis has pushed many Russian women to have an abortion, and now experts predict the number of babies born may drop by almost 200,000 by next year. It says here, a member of the internet forum says, first, I was so happy when I found out that I was pregnant, but then my husband got sacked or basically fired because of the crisis, and I lost my job as well. I have nothing to do but to have an abortion. And then, of course, like this picture tells it all. I mean, it's a crappy situation to be in when you can't survive and you can't procreate because of what these global elites are doing in engineering. So, and it creates a lot of animosity too between the couple, which of course correlates with a high divorce rate as well. So it says here, contraceptive use averts 272,000 maternal deaths worldwide. So it says here, contraceptive use likely prevents more than 250,000 maternal deaths from childbirth each year, according to a new study led by researchers at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. So I guess you can also say that it also averts 272,000 possible births of life. So it says here, teenagers can be corrupted by Hollywood sex scenes. It's as if we didn't know this, but I guess we have to have the experts tell us that watching sex scenes in Hollywood films can make children more promiscuous and sexually active from a younger age, a new study has suggested. That's what psychologists have concluded. And, you know, I've mentioned this before, it's about what? It's about not being able to have a family unit. And that's what this economy is doing. It's killing families. And so when you go with this, what they're talking about right here, more promiscuous than that, it means that you're less likely to have a family, less likely to have a functional community and a functional society. And that is the number one enemy of the global elites, which is the family unit. So the ends justify the means. And of course, there's always this underlying purveyor of morality inside the public school system that always says, what? Oh, well, they're going to do it anyway, so let's just go ahead and give them sex education and kindergarten, now almost preschool, and hand out condoms and contraceptive pills.
You talk about these two films that they came out with in 1973, which is interestingly the same time that the Supreme Court okayed abortion.
Right. What you saw was the Cultural Revolution, which is, in a sense, part of what Culture Wars magazine does, is try to give the real history of what happened during the Cultural Revolution. So what you're talking about here is the use of sexual liberation as a form of political control. That's really what it's all about. I've written a book on this. It's called Libido Dominandi, Sexual Liberation and Political Control. And basically what you learn here over the 60s is that the best way to control people is through the manipulation of their passion. Yeah, but I think we need to view this in perspective, okay? Now, I've written another book. It's called The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit, Its Impact on World History. Puts this, I think, this don't ask, don't tell in its proper perspective. Because what we have, beginning with the time when Jesus Christ walked on the face of this earth, was the Jews having to either accept him as the Messiah or reject him. And the Jews who rejected Jesus Christ became revolutionaries. They chose Barabbas. Within 30 years, they rebelled against Rome, and they've been revolutionaries ever since. Now, the problem is there aren't a whole lot of Jews out there, so they always need some type of group to carry water for them, to carry the revolution forward. Now, in America, that group was the black population. From 1909, from the founding of the NAACP up to 1969, when the government turned on the Black Panthers and murdered them all, the black people were the avant-garde for the Negro revolutionaries. And what happened after that all fell apart, for various reasons which I go into in the book, is that they needed a new avant-garde, a new revolutionary avant-garde, and that was now going to be the homosexual. And that's who it's been ever since, and that's what came out with this don't ask, don't tell thing. The Jews, liberal rabbis, the Reformed rabbis, Rabbi David Saperstein is one of the most active of this group, have been using the homosexual as the avant-garde for social revolution in this country ever since 1969, the Stonewall riot. Right around that time is when the whole movement shifted. And that's what we saw here with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They are going to use the American military now as a form of social engineering, sexual engineering, to get us all used to being, part of that sexual revolution by accepting homosexuality as a normal part of everyday life.
And from the EUobserver.com, gay rights is EU entry criterion, Brussels says European Commission has said in a written note that respect for gay rights is a legal criteria for EU accession. So they're talking about Armenia as one of the countries wanting to join the EU, but they have a strong Christian culture. It says here, it's not in our culture to accept homosexuals. I mean, we don't reject the person, but we reject the sin, and this is our freedom as Armenians. Our culture does not accept this, he told the EU Observer in a recent interview. He went on also by saying, we have our cultural differences which should be respected. The country scores better only than Moldova and Russia in terms of legal protection of LGBT people in Europe. From the Army Times, gay troops okay to march at parade in uniform. About 200 active duty troops participated in last year's San Diego Gay Pride Parade. It's hard to say, fast. But they wore t-shirts with their branch's name, not military dress. This year, for the first time ever, U.S. service members will be able to march in a gay pride parade event decked out in uniform. Thursday's move came only weeks after the Pentagon joined the rest of the U.S. government for the first time in marking June as Gay Pride Month and made an official salute to gay and lesbian service members. Coming from Massachusetts, Hill's first gay Republican, Richard Teese, thinks his sexuality could actually be an advantage. Being gay is a non-issue in his left-leaning district. He thinks being pro-gay marriage and pro-choice will be marks in his favor. And many of you heard about this story from the 19th. This is all news it's been getting stacked up, especially when my internet went down. I haven't been able to cover. So I know everybody's covering the shooting, and hopefully I can get some of that today or tomorrow. Chick-fil-A's gay marriage stance causing a social storm. The fact that Chick-fil-A is a company that espouses Christian values is no secret. It says here, the fact that its 1,600 fast food chicken restaurants across the country are closed on Sundays has long been testament to that. But the comments of the company president, Dan Cathy, about gay marriage to Baptist press on Monday have ignited a social media wildfire. He says he's guilty as charged. We are very much supportive of the family, the biblical definition of the family, and says we are a family-owned business, family-led business, and we are married to our first wives. We give God thanks for that. So people were Facebooking and tweeting, hate mongers, never again, not another dollar from me. Goodbye, Chick-fil-A. It says I can no longer eat nuggets filled with hate. So see, that's the irony of this agenda, right? Whether it's a Zionist or communist agenda, which is what you need, discrimination and tolerance. Is you need to accept our views or else we're going to force you to accept our views. And somehow that's supposed to be tolerance. And just remember that, because we're going to come back to that story here in a second. Attackers said to carve gay slurs on Nebraska woman. So police in Lincoln, Nebraska said Monday they are investigating a possible gay hate crime against a 33-year-old woman who was tied up in her home and had words sliced onto her body by 3 masked attackers. They said that the attack prompted a vigil by about 500 people in the state's capital. I wondered if she was dead, but I think she's actually alive. Local media reported that the words that were carved in there were gay slurs, but police denied to confirm this until they're done with the investigation. And this is a story or a theme that's been happening. Anti-homosexual hate crime at UNC was yet another hoax. So it says here this freshman from University of North Carolina made the news with claims that he was called a bad name and even burned with a piece of hot metal for being a homosexual. So it's kind of like the other story, right? Carved in their skin. Like most outlandish hate crimes attributed to the enemies of political correctness, his story is fake. So that's right. And it says here, it called him an anti-gay slur, made a false report, the university said. So the ends justify the means. Gay couple eyes lawsuit after finding their picture on a hate group mailer, a hate group. So it says here that this New Jersey couple married in 2010 were horrified when a photo of them kissing at their engagement party was altered and turned up into an anti-gay union mailer. It was used in a political campaign to attack a Republican who supported civil union legislation. The tagline for the ad was State Senator White's idea of family values, in which he later lost the primary. So remember, Chick-fil-A was under fire, right? Everybody was mad at him, angry at him. Jim Henson Company breaks ties with Chick-fil-A over gay marriage stance. So they're ending their business relationship with Chick-fil-A over the restaurant's chain's public stance against gay marriage, which they're free to do. But you read down, the majority of the comments were actually saying of people that they're both free to do what they're going to do, and that they shouldn't really be so offended by this. If you don't like it, don't shop there. But I just found it ironic after they came out with this Chick-fil-A story, and then the Muppets owner, the Disney owner, basically said that they're no longer doing business with Chick-fil-A. Then all of a sudden this story about this attacker came out, which is quite possibly a hoax put out there because people weren't accepting the political correctness agenda. So this is actually the old Disney chairman, Rich Ross. He's actually no longer working there. I guess he wasn't making enough money or selling his soul enough. But interesting enough, the new guy is Alan Horn, who's headed up hits including the Batman movies and the Harry Potter franchise. And the only picture of him is with Jason Alexander, who made a comment and sparked a hellacious Twitter war when he said, "I cannot understand the support for the legality of the kind of weapon in this massacre. It's a military weapon. Why should it be in non-military hands? Apparently it should be in the hands of military members who have sex dungeons and use power tools to dismember a body, just like on Dexter." That's right, a television-inspired...
They are the only solutions. Educate yourself. Understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war. And you have precious little time to save yourself. If we sing together, we will sing beautifully together. There is no other place on this planet to defect to.